Refugee status. Canada offers refugee protection to some people in Canada who fear persecution or who would be in danger if they had to leave. Some dangers they may face include 1. Torture. 2. Risk to their life. 3. Risk of cruel and unusual treatment or punishment. If you feel you could face one of these risks if you go back to your home country or the country where you normally live, you may be able to seek protection in Canada as a refugee. Who can make a refugee claim? To make a refugee claim, you 1. Must be in Canada. 2. Can't be subject to a removal order. If you're outside Canada, you may be eligible to. Who can make a refugee claim? To make a refugee claim, you must be in Canada. Can't be subject to a removal order. If you're outside Canada, you may be eligible to resettle in Canada as refugee. Immigrate to Canada through one of our programs. Eligibility. If you make a refugee claim, we'll decide if it can be referred to the Immigration and Refugee Board of Canada, IRB. The IRB is an independent tribunal that makes decisions on immigration and refugee matters. Your refugee claim may not be eligible to be referred to the IRB if you are recognized as a convention refugee by another country that you can return to. Were granted protected person status in Canada. Arrived via the Canada-United States border. Have made a refugee claim in another country, as confirmed through information sharing. Are not admissible to Canada on security grounds or because of criminal activity or human rights violations. Made a previous refugee claim that was not found eligible. Made a previous refugee claim that was rejected by the IRB. Abandoned or withdrew a previous refugee claim. The IRB decides who is a convention refugee or a person in need of protection. Convention refugees are outside their home country or the country they normally live in. They're not able to return because of a well-founded fear of persecution based on race, religion, political opinion, nationality, being part of a social group, such as women or people of a particular sexual orientation. A person in need of protection is a person in Canada who can't return to their home country safely. This is because, if they return, they may face danger of torture, risk to their life, risk of cruel and unusual treatment or punishment. The IRB website has more information on making an asylum claim in Canada. How to make a refugee claim. You must be in Canada to make your refugee claim. You can make your claim in one of two ways. In person, when you arrive in Canada at a port of entry. Online, when you're already in Canada. The information you share in your claim will help us understand your background, your family, why you want to make a refugee claim. When you make your claim, you can request a work permit at the same time. Make your claim when you arrive in Canada. You can make a claim for refugee protection at any port of entry when you arrive in Canada. This means an airport, seaport or land border. A Canada Border Services Agency, CBSA, officer will ask you to complete the required application forms when you arrive. Normally, you'll complete the forms at the port of entry. While at the port of entry, the officer will also ask you questions about your situation. Collect your documentation and proof of identity. Take your fingerprints and photo, biometrics. If the officer decides your refugee claim is eligible, the officer will give you a Refugee Protection Claimant Document, RPCD, which will help you get access to the Interim Federal Health Program and other services in Canada. A confirmation of referral letter, which confirms your claim has been referred to the Immigration and Refugee Board of Canada, IRB. A basis of claim form. Instructions about completing your medical exam. You have 15 calendar days to complete the basis of claim form and submit it to the IRB's Refugee Protection Division office listed on your confirmation of referral letter. If the officer tells you to come back for an interview, the officer will give you an information pamphlet, an acknowledgement of claim letter, which will help you get access to the Interim Federal Health Program and other services in Canada. Instructions about completing your medical exam. You may have to return to the port of entry or go to an inland office for your interview. The officer may also tell you to submit your refugee claim online. If you're told to complete your claim online, the officer will give you instructions. To complete your claim, you'll need your application number, UCI, date of birth. You'll find these on your acknowledgement of claim letter, refugee protection claimant document. Get a work or study permit while waiting for a decision on your refugee claim. Get a work permit. If you make your claim at a port of entry, you can request to apply for a work permit while you're with the Border Services officer. You won't get your work permit while at the port of entry. If you're eligible for one, you'll receive it after you complete your medical exam. If you submit your refugee claim online, you can request a work permit in your online application. We'll only issue you a work permit if we decide your claim is eligible to be referred to the IRB and you complete your medical exam. Learn more about who is eligible and how to apply for a work permit. Get a study permit. You can't request to apply for a study permit when you submit your refugee claim. You must apply for a study permit separately. Find out who is eligible and how to apply for a study permit. If you make your claim at a port of entry, there are 4 possible results when you make a claim at a port of entry. Your next steps will depend what our Canada Border Services Agency, CBSA, officer decides to do after reviewing your claim. The CBSA officer decides your claim is eligible. You'll receive a notice from the Immigration and Refugee Board of Canada, IRB, about a hearing. You must complete your medical exam and go to your hearing with the IRB. The officer schedules you for an interview. You must complete your medical exam and go to your scheduled interview. The officer tells you to complete your claim online. You must complete your claim online and complete your medical exam. To complete your claim online, you'll need your application number, UCI, date of birth. You'll find these on your acknowledgement of claim letter or refugee protection claimant document. Keep any of these documents the CBSA gives you. The CBSA will tell you what to do next. The officer decides your claim is not eligible if you submit your claim online. After you submit your claim online, we'll review it to make sure it's complete. If it is, we'll use your online account to send you an acknowledgement of claim letter, which will help you get access to the Interim Federal Health Program and other services in Canada. Instructions to complete your medical exam. A letter with details about an in-person appointment, once we schedule it. You may not get this letter at the same time as your acknowledgement of claim letter. We'll send it to you only once we schedule your appointment. If your claim is incomplete, we'll tell you what's missing. You'll get an email if we update your account or upload a document for you. Make sure you check your email regularly. Go to your appointment. Make sure you bring your original passport or any other identification documents you have to your appointment. During your appointment, we'll review your application. Collect your fingerprints and photo, biometrics, and any required documents, if you haven't already provided them. Conduct your eligibility interview to decide if your claim is eligible, if we can give you documents about next steps. If we don't make a decision about your claim during this appointment, we'll schedule you for an interview and give you the details. It's mandatory to go to your interview. Go to your interview. During your interview, we'll decide if your claim is eligible. If we decide it is, we'll refer it to the Immigration and Refugee Board of Canada, IRB. After the interview, we'll give you a refugee protection claimant document that matches our decision about your claim. If your claim is eligible, we'll also give you a confirmation of referral letter that confirms we referred your claim to the IRB. These documents will help you prove you are a refugee claimant in Canada. Get access to the Interim Federal Health Program and other services in Canada. If your claim is eligible, go to your hearing. If we refer your claim to the IRB will send you a notice to appear for a hearing. This notice will tell you where to go for your hearing, when to get there, when it starts. After your hearing, after your refugee hearing, the IRB approves or rejects your refugee claim. If the IRB accepts your claim, you get protected person status. This means you can stay in Canada, and you can apply to become a permanent resident of Canada. If the IRB rejects your claim, you'll have to leave Canada. You may be eligible to appeal the IRB's decision. You may also have other options. Refugee claims in Canada, options for refused applicants. On the 23rd of July 2015, the federal court rendered a decision impacting the right to appeal to the Refugee Appeal Division of the Immigration and Refugee Board, IRB, of Canada. Please check the IRB website for more information. If you are in Canada and have had either a refugee claim or a permanent resident application refused, there may still be options for you. Canada does not want to send people back to a country where they will be in danger or would face the risk of persecution. It is not guaranteed, however, that an applicant will be found eligible under any of these processes. Find out if you can use any of these options to stay in Canada. Pre-removal risk assessment. If you are told to leave Canada, you may be able to apply under this process. If so, an officer reviews the documents related to your case and any other evidence. Apply to the Refugee Appeal Division at the Immigration and Refugee Board of Canada. If you received a negative decision on your refugee claim, you may be able to appeal to the Refugee Appeal Division, RAD, at the Immigration and Refugee Board of Canada. But some failed claimants are not eligible to apply. Find out more about the RAD. Apply to the Federal Court of Canada for judicial review. You can ask the Federal Court of Canada to review the decision made on your case. Humanitarian and compassionate grounds. In some exceptional circumstances, people are allowed to become permanent residents under these grounds. Why pre-removal risk assessment is important. In some cases, you may be eligible to apply for a pre-removal risk assessment, PRRA, if you're being removed from Canada. We use PRRAs to make sure you're not being removed to a country where you would be in danger of torture. You would be at risk of persecution. There would be a risk to your life or of cruel and unusual treatment or punishment. Apply to the Federal Court of Canada for judicial review. Under Canada's immigration law, you can ask the Federal Court of Canada to review immigration decisions. There are deadlines to apply for a review. For example, if the Immigration and Refugee Board, IRB, rejects your claim for refugee protection, you must file an application for a federal court review within 15 days of the IRB decision. If you want to apply for a review, you may want to get legal advice as soon as possible. A review by the federal court is a two-stage process. Leave stage. Judicial review stage. Stage 1, leave. In the first stage, called the leave stage, the court reviews the documents about your case. You must show the court that the decision was not fair or reasonable, or that there was an error. If the court gives leave, it means it agrees to examine the decision in depth. Stage 2, judicial review. The second stage is called the judicial review. At this stage, you, with or without a lawyer, can attend an oral hearing before the court and explain why you believe the original IRB decision was wrong. Staying in Canada during the federal court's review. The status of your removal order depends on which IRB division made the decision you're asking the court to review. For decisions made by the IRB's Refugee Appeal Division, your removal order is on hold. You can stay in Canada until the court makes a decision. Refugee Protection Division. Your removal order is not on hold. You may need to leave Canada. Federal Court of Canada decisions. If the court agrees with the IRB's original decision and finds there was no error, you'll have to leave Canada. If the court returns your case to the IRB, your case will be reconsidered. This does not mean the IRB will reverse the original decision. Humanitarian and compassionate grounds. People who would not normally be eligible to become permanent residents of Canada may be able to apply on humanitarian and compassionate grounds. Humanitarian and compassionate grounds apply to people with exceptional cases. We assess these applications on a case-by-case basis. Factors we look at include how settled the person is in Canada, general family ties to Canada, the best interests of any children involved, and what could happen to you if we do not grant the request. Other rules that apply to humanitarian and compassionate grounds. You may only ask for humanitarian and compassionate grounds if you are applying for permanent resident status in Canada, or for a permanent resident visa abroad. We will not look at H&C requests from temporary resident applicants. You cannot have more than one humanitarian and compassionate grounds application at the same time. We will not assess risk factors such as persecution, risk to life, cruel and unusual treatment or punishment. You cannot apply for humanitarian and compassionate grounds if you have a pending refugee claim. If you want to apply, you must withdraw your refugee claim before your Immigration and Refugee Board of Canada (IRB) hearing. You cannot apply for humanitarian and compassionate grounds if you had a negative decision from the IRB within the last 12 months. This is called the one-year bar. If the IRB decides your refugee claim is abandoned or withdrawn, that counts as a negative decision. The bar does not apply if you have children under 18 who would be adversely affected if you were removed from Canada, or you have proof that you or one of your dependents suffers from a life-threatening medical condition that cannot be treated in your home country. Designated foreign nationals. A group of people who enter or try to enter Canada in a way that is against the law can be considered an irregular arrival. This means certain rules and restrictions apply to them. If you got here as part of an irregular arrival, you are a designated foreign national. The Minister of Public Safety will tell you in writing if you are one. You cannot apply for humanitarian and compassionate grounds until 5 years have passed since the day you became a designated foreign national and/or the IRB made a final negative decision on your refugee claim and/or you got a negative decision on a pre-removal risk assessment. If you applied for humanitarian and compassionate grounds and then became a designated foreign national, your humanitarian and compassionate grounds application will be suspended for 5 years from the date you were designated, or of a negative decision from the IRB, or of a negative pre-removal risk assessment decision. Removal orders. If you have an order to leave Canada, this is called a removal order. You may be able to apply to stay in Canada on humanitarian and compassionate grounds, unless any of the above restrictions apply to you. If you apply, this will not prevent or delay your removal from Canada. You must leave on or before the date stated on your removal order. We will still process your application even if you have to leave Canada. We will tell you in writing about the decision on your case. There is no guarantee that we will approve your application. There is no right to appeal a refused application for permanent residence on humanitarian and compassionate grounds. In some cases, you can ask the Federal Court of Canada to review the decision. You can find out more in the application package. Note, remember, you must keep your application up to date. If anything changes which may affect your application, it is your responsibility to tell us of the change. This is so that decision makers have all the information that you want them to consider for your application.